What's going on, guys? Your boy Amazing. We're back with another video, and in today's video, guys, me going over the Welcome Jump Festival Hero Selection ticket and going over which festival character you guys want to be picking from the UR ticket here that is going to be available at the end of the jumping box. If you guys have not seen my previous video here discussing the jumping box event and how to get all the tickets, definitely check out that video because it explains all the locations to get the tickets to be able to get this festival early as quick as possible. So yeah, no, definitely check out that video. Now with that out of the way, guys, let's hop in and let's actually discuss which festival you guys want to be selecting based on your account and where you kind of are in the game. One last thing, guys, if you guys haven't hit that like button or subscribed yet to the channel, I definitely would appreciate it, man. We are closing in on that 50,000 subscribers and we recently just hit 45k, man, so only 5k subs away, guys. Really close. So with that out of the way, guys, let's hop in and let's actually discuss each of these festivals and my recommendations for the one you should be picking from the selector. Alright, guys, so in terms of the festival lineup here, we have Assault Mode Meliodas, Loli Merlin, we have Purgatory Ban, we have the original festival Gowther, we have Chad King, and then we also have Queen Diane. Now let's actually go over each of the units here individually, and then we'll give you my final rankings at the very end, guys, depending on your account and where you would actually have them available. So Assault Melee is going to be the first character option that we have available. Assault Melee, in terms of what his kit is able to do, for his passive here, if all allies in the battle are demons with commandments, demons or those with commandments, increases own all stats by 5% and decreases defense related stats of all enemies by 15% for 3 turns when allies take damage from enemy attacks or attacks from the enemy turn. Limit 5 times, applies when entering battle. So yeah, Assault Melee, that's just his passive right there. He does also have a Holy Relic as well, guys, where he gets a bunch of other things as well. I'll actually put that up real quick. Yeah, so he does also have a Holy Relic here, guys, which does a lot more things than just what his kit does normally. And this Holy Relic actually does make Assault Melee a very viable character nowadays in the game. So for his Holy Relic, increases the hero's basic stats by 30% for 2 turns at the start of the battle. And if the hero does not take damage during the enemy's turn, applies the same effect at the start of the ally's turn, and increases demon allies basic stats by 5% for every buff applied to the hero, limit of 3 times. So you instantly get that basic stats for the demon allies, and you're getting 30% hero basic stats off the rip, which is all blue buffs as well, which do coincide really well with his 2 skills being amplify single target, where he does more damage for every buff on self, and then also for his AoE where he's doing rupture damage, so he does more against opposing enemies with buffs as well. Now moving on to his ultimate here, guys, he has Dark Pressure, which is going to increase basic stats by 50% for 3 turns and inflicts damage equal to 525% of attack on all enemies. Now, I think this does scale up depending on the dupe, so it might be a lower amount of basic stats and it also might be a lower amount of damage, but this is at the 6 out of 6 right here, guys. Alright, guys, so now that we're done explaining Assault Melee, let's actually move on here to Loli Merlin. Now, Loli Merlin's not a super insane character in the game nowadays. She's still a viable character on like Grey Demon and stuff like that, so I think there, she has that viability. But yeah, let's hop into her kit and let's discuss. So the hero's damage taken from skills during the enemy's turn does not exceed 40% of max HP. This is the first character to bring damage cap into the game, guys. And it increases attack related stats by 1% for every 4% of remaining HP when using skills, and this applies before skill activation as well. And then in terms of her skills, she has single target power strike, which is ranged as well for the Grey Demon, and then her AoE is also going to be ranged as well, doing infect AoE, which is a really strong effect too. And then moving on to her ultimate here, guys, she's going to inflict damage equal to 400% of attack on all enemies and creates barriers around all allies equal to 5% of the damage, and take damage only from basic stat effects as well, which excludes rupture effect. So pretty much what that does is it kind of acts like a Goddess Liz shield in that sense, where any effect that is attacked into the shield will not have any effect unless it is a rupture effect. So yeah, and then I think Merlin's Holy Relic, guys, I think it's just more damage dealt against debuffed enemies, if I'm not mistaken. I'll pull up Merlin real quick and we'll actually just make sure exactly what her Holy Relic is, but it's not like something super insane where I think you need to have it. But yeah, no, so it increases the hero's attack by 20% when attacking a debuffed enemy. Yeah, so it's not like a super insane Holy Relic or anything like that, but it definitely does help her damage, and when you are attacking a debuffed enemy, I mean, she is going to increase her attack because of that. Alright, guys, now moving on from Loli Merlin, we do now have Purgatory Ban. Now, Purgatory Ban is a character that scales off of max HP. He used to be one of the best characters in the game, and throughout the game's life cycle, obviously Ban has kind of fallen off nowadays. He's kind of an older unit now, guys. But yeah, let's talk about what his kit is able to do and what he's able to provide for the team. So Body of Broken limits: every time the hero's ultimate move gauge fills by 1 orb from using, moving, or ranking up skills, the hero's max HP increases by 8% up to 5 times for 3 turns, and removes all stat decrease effects from self. And then if we actually look at his skills here, guys, for his first skill here, it's going to be Detonate AoE. It's actually going to scale off of the hero's max HP. So the higher Bond's max HP, the more damage this skill is going to do. And then it is Detonate, which is 20% additional damage per orb in the target's ultimate move gauge. And then moving on to his second skill here, guys, he has a buff skill, which is going to be the Gift effect. Applies an effect on the hero which restores 20% of diminished HP at the start of the ally's turn for 2 turns, and it increases max HP by 10%. So yeah, obviously that's going to scale up the higher the rank of the skill. And then for his ultimate here, guys, he's going to have a Crazy Hunt, which at 1 out of 6 all the way up to 5 out of 6 is just going to be straight HP scaling damage AoE. At 6 out of 6, it does gain the Rupture effect where he does double damage against buffed enemies, so bear that in mind, guys. And then the last thing for Purgatory Ban is when an ally dies, he actually does gain max HP for each ally that does die. I don't think it's like a super substantial amount of max HP, but I think it's like 10 or 20% max HP. I don't think it's anything super crazy. Yeah, 15, so right in the middle of that. So increases the hero's max HP by 15% each time an ally dies. So kind of you know, not really a very good holy relic nowadays, but back in the day, man, this was definitely one of the better holy relics for a character like Purgatory Ban, where, you know, he needs that extra HP to deal damage, and when the team is dying, he still benefits from it. Alright, guys, now moving on from Purgatory Ban, we actually do have Festival Gowther. Now, for you guys that don't know what Festival Gowther does, or Hijack Gowther, Alter Ego is going to increase allies' attack related stats by 2% and max HP by 1% each time an ally uses a skill, and a limit of 10 times and applies when entering battle. So a very nice, supportive, you know, kind of unique skill right there, which is pretty nice. And then moving on to his actual skills here, he has Pulverize Single Target, which is going to be a gauge reduction effect when you have 4 or more ultimate move gauge, and pulverizes additional damage for each orb in the hero's ultimate move gauge. So the higher gauge you have, the more damage you're going to deal, and that obviously scales up depending on the, you know, the card rank. And then moving on to his second skill, guys, this is one of the best skills in the game in my opinion in terms of what it's providing. Jack Light here, depending on the rank. So at rank 1, it's going to disable buff skills on all enemies, disable skills that are rank 2 or higher, and decrease skill ranks at the end of the enemy's turn. And this is going to scale up to where at the rank 2 it disables ultimate moves and buffs, and then at the rank 3 it's going to disable all skills and then except debuff attack skills, and then disables anything that are ranked 2 or higher, and decrease the skill ranks at the end of the allies, or at the end of, and decrease the skill ranks at the end of the enemy's turn as well, which is just a very absurd you know, ability there to be able to lock down literally all skills on the enemy right there. And then moving on to his ultimate here, guys, is actually going to scale off of Gowther's max HP, so inflicts damage equal to 8% of the hero's max HP on all enemies, and then deletes 2 skills from the pool of the enemy's skills. So delete is going to randomly remove skills from the target, and then it's also including ultimate moves if there's no skills other than that to delete, so bear that in mind. And then the last thing about Gowther as well, guys, is that he has a very viable holy relic you can use on the character. So let's actually find Gowther here, and we'll kind of talk about it. But, you know, he does have a holy relic where you're able to get extra attack related stats when his ultimate move gauge is completely filled. So increases attack related stats by 25% for 2 turns when the hero's ultimate move gauge is completely filled. So it's just a very nice effect as well. And this is a gray buff as well, guys, so it cannot be buff stripped or anything like that. There's definitely a nice ability that Gowther has for PvE, or even, you know, back in the day in PvP as well. But PvE related content like this, Gowther is really good because of this and his passive, where, you know, he's providing a ton of support for the team. Alright, guys, now moving on from Hijack Gowther, we got 2 of the best characters that are in this pool here that are available left, guys. We got the Chad King from November Festival of 2021, one of the best characters in the game back then, and now, I mean, he's still a very viable character in the game, and honestly one of my better picks for this, you know, character selector here, because he's still such a really good unit, and we'll kind of talk about it here. So for his passive here, guys, when the hero uses a skill, increases damage dealt to enemies by 30%, then creates a barrier around allies equal to 50% of the damage dealt for 1 turn, and decreases damage taken by 100% and increases damage dealt by 25%. So just a very nice, you know, passive right there, only not being able to be used in death matches, but you can literally use it in any other content in the game, and it's a very nice effect. It creates a shield for the team based on the amount of damage you've done, and it's a very tanky shield at that. Moving on to his skills here, guys. For his first skill, he's going to have AoE Power Strike, which is going to be at 110, 165, 275. Additional damage equal to the enemy's resistance. And then moving on, he's also going to have a AoE Sever skill. So double AoE. Sever is going to be triple the crit chance increase at 120, 180, and 300% of attack. And then moving on to his ultimate here, guys. Removes debuff from allies and buffs from enemies. And for each buff removed, increases damage taken by those enemies whose buffs were removed by 2% for 1 turn. And then inflicts damage equal to 400% of attack on all enemies. And obviously all these effects, guys, are going to scale up the damage, the amount of damage taken the enemies per buff and all that. So just a very, very strong ultimate, and will allow you to also cleanse the allies too, which I think is a really, really good effect. And then moving on to his Holy Relic, guys, I think is one of the better things for Chad King as well. I mean, if we actually talk about his Holy Relic here, I think it's one of the better things that a character like him was given, considering it does work really well alongside his, shield that he has. So increases the hero's damage dealt by 15% and increases basic stats of allies protected by the hero's barrier by 15%. So you get another 15% basic stats and 15% damage dealt every time King uses a skill, which is a very strong effect and allows you to support literally anyone that you're running King alongside, and I think he's very, very valuable because of that. Alright, guys, now moving on to the last character that we have on the list is going to be Queen Diane. So Queen Diane is a really strong character, man. As I mentioned with King, she was one of those characters that is still very, very strong in the game. She came out in 2022 now. So she's almost, no, she is 2 years old actually. She was the Global Annie Fest of 2022. And she's still a very good unit to this day though. If we actually look at her passive here, when taking damage from an enemy, increases the hero's damage dealt by 10% up to 50, combines up to 500% of damage taken by skills and skill effects, then increases the damage dealt by 20% of the accumulated amount, then decreases allies damage taken by 40% when a stance is active. So a lot of stuff there. Whenever Diane is taking damage, she's going to deal more. She's also going to be able to get damage dealt and damage reduction for the team when you do have a stance as well. And then moving on to her skills here, guys. For her first skill, she's going to have the exact same card as Hijack Gowther, which is going to be Pulverize. So obviously, when 4 gauge or higher, you gain gauge reduction. And then you also gain 20% additional damage for each orb in the hero's ultimate move gauge in terms of damage, which is definitely really good. And then moving on from that, guys, she does also have a stance skill, which is going to be the Spinning Hammer. Assumes a stance for 2 turns, which increases HP related stats by 12% and taunts enemies. So you have a 2-turn taunt on the rank 1 right there with Queen Diane. And then on the rank 2, it's going to be 3-turn 18% HP related, and then 3-turn 30% HP related. Just a very insane amount right there. And then moving on to our ultimate here, guys, is going to be the Quell ultimate. So inflicts Quell damage equal to 380% of attack on all enemies. Then heals HP of all allies equal to 3% of the damage dealt. And the Quell effect is going to be damage dealt plus 5% per active stance on self. All these effects, guys, are going to scale up depending on the dupes, and Queen Diane is one of those more dupe-dependent characters as well. The higher the dupes you get, the more she's going to heal, the more the Quell is going to do, and the damage on the actual ultimate itself is going to scale up as well. Another thing about Diane as well, guys, is that she actually did get a Holy Relic, not as recently now, but it is a really, really good Holy Relic though, and it's going to increase allies damage dealt by 30% for 2 turns when the hero assumes a stance, which obviously, because she's going to be a taunt unit like that, I think that's a really strong Holy Relic. Alright, guys, so now that we've gone over all the characters and their kits, which character is going to be the best of the 6 that we have here in terms of actually picking for the free copy? Now, if you're someone that does not own any of these 6 characters, in my opinion, the best character you could probably get from this list is either going to be Queen Diane, Chad King, or Assault Mode Meliodas. Now, if you're more of a newer player, I do think that Chad King and Queen Diane will be a little bit better, since they're not as reliant on their Holy Relic as Assault Melee is. Assault Melee's Holy Relic does come from Nidhogg, if I'm not mistaken, which is still, in my opinion, endgame content for the most part, and is still hard to actually clear. So to get Assault Melee's like full potential, you're not going to be able to do early on. And if you're a new player missing, all these characters here, I think Queen Diane or Chad King would be best. Now, in terms of the, Chad King and Queen Diane, who's better for a newer player, I actually do think Queen Diane, and the main reason for that is because you have a lot of damage dealers already that you can get. Queen Diane is not here to be necessarily a damage dealer. She's mainly here to be a taunt character where she's able to direct damage towards herself and draw damage away from other characters. Also, she is a very strong character in the sense that, you know, because she's able to draw damage away, she's also able to deal a ton of damage for all the damage she does take. So just another, you know, very good thing about that. And also, you know, decreasing the amount of damage allies take as well is another big effect. So overall, like, Queen Diane is doing a lot for the team, guys. And I think as a brand new player, just getting into the game and doing the jumping box, I think Queen Diane is going to be a little bit better than Chad King and Assault Mode Meliodas. Now, let's say you're someone that's looking for a dupe on any of these characters, guys. Which dupe is going to be the most important in terms of getting dupes? In my opinion, it's still going to be Queen Diane. If we actually look at a 6 out of 6 Queen Diane versus a 1 out of 6, guys, the dupe like dependency is very, very insane. The kind of difference here. So this is at 6 out of 6. You get 570% of attack, 30% of damage dealt as healing for the team, and 50% per stance effect, whereas at 1 out of 6 it's only 3% healing. I think it's 380% of attack and 5% per stance, guys. So one of the, you know, crazy scaling characters for dupes is definitely going to be Queen Diane. I think Chad King is also up there in terms of dupe dependency, as I think you know, the higher it gets, the more you're going to be getting for damage taken on the enemy as well, which could be valuable for you if you're, you know, looking to get that cleanse and the more damage dealt off the ultimate. But I think Chad King, like, his main use in the game now has kind of just been relegated to farming. And, you know, I think nowadays you have so many farming characters that you have that it's not necessarily needed to have this character, whereas I think Queen Diane is going to be a little bit more valuable for people, you know, in that kind of situation. So yeah, I mean, you know, in terms of all the characters here available, guys, my recommendation for my number 1 is going to be Queen Diane. And then from there, it really depends if you're kind of a later game player. Assault Melly is going to be really, really good, especially if you're able to get his Holy Relic. And then Chad King, I think, would be my number 3. But it also depends. I mean, if you are able to get Chad King and you need him for like Demonic Beast, he can still do really well in that as well. And then the other 3 characters here, guys, Hijack, Gowther, Purgatory Ban, and Loli Merlin, they do not have LRs at the moment in the game, and so they're kind of just older characters that aren't really that insane nowadays. And so in my opinion, I don't think that you actually need to go for any of those 3, and you should really focus on Queen Diane, Chad King, or Assault Melly, depending on your account. Alrighty, guys, so that's going to be it for the video. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know if this was helpful and you guys understand which character is the best of the 6. And I hope this video was helpful so that you guys learned something in terms of, you know, character viability and how good they actually are. And I'm glad Netmarble is able to give out these characters for free, man. I mean, this is a really nice thing they're able to do. And because of these jumping box events, we're able to get a bunch of free festivals and a bunch of free characters in that as well. So that's going to be it for the video. Hope you guys did enjoy. And we'll see you guys on the next one, man. Peace out. And have a great rest of your day, guys. See you later, man.